Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. I am Illeagle Is. I am joined by Nerdbomber and Techtic, and I'm thinking about, I always start the episode like, what's on the calendar, like just in life, as we release this. Isn't tax day like Friday of this week? Like, isn't that isn't that a thing that's happening to us? Or
it must be. We do our taxes. We like to get our money back.
Oh, mine have been done for mine have been done for months. But I think it's either April 15th or April 16th, both of which are coming up. So if you didn't do your taxes, it's probably no time like the present. Especially if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you have probably less than 2 days at this point. So
it's the final countdown. Get your taxes into the IRS. Get your taxes.
Boom, boom.
I hope you enjoyed that.
Techtic 3 is some bass there. A nice deep rumble for your song. Happy tax day. I mean, it's not fun, but hopefully eventually the government will give you money back. We're talking about a lot of things today, as per usual. We're going to be talking about the Multiverse of Madness for what I imagine will be a final time before it comes out in theaters. We got a new trailer for that, probably the final trailer. We're going to be talking about The Fast and the Furious, the other mega franchise that we, kind of along with the MCU, probably the biggest franchise besides the MCU and maybe like Star Wars. And then we're going to be talking about something that I know is near and dear to Nerdbomber's heart, which is Kingdom Hearts. We're going to lead off with that. But before we do, I want to ask you guys a question, just, host to host. Okay, I want to tell you a very brief story, and I want your opinion on something. Just kind of get the juices flowing here. So I was at work today. I have a job, first of all. We have jobs that aren't just doing the podcast. I was at work today, and without getting into the details of what I do, we were working on a problem. And it was me and a couple of guys, both of whom are older than me. I feel like that context is important, okay? And these two guys work together all the time, and I was like a third wheel in there, just kind of like trying to learn something, basically. And at one point, when they were working on something, one of the guys was complaining about something, and he dropped the big one. He dropped the F-bomb, okay? And then he looked at me and said, "Oh, sorry," like I was going to be upset. So my question to you guys is, do I strike you as the kind of person who would be upset? Like if someone
I guess
it was so weird. It was such a weird experience. I feel like I have to talk about it.
I'm going to say what I think happened in the brains of said people. They looked at you and said, "Oh, must be one of them snowflakes."
Well, yeah. I was more thinking am I such a straight-laced goober that they were like, this guy probably doesn't even know what wordy dirds are, I don't want to put out that kind of vibe. I want to be cool. I want to be hip to the vibe.
So what was your rebuttal?
I was just like, "Oh, it's fine." Like I was trying to be casual about it.
I don't know.
At that point, you just try to be as cool as you can.
I don't think it's the vibe that you give off. I think anytime that someone is around someone they don't know super well, the first time you swear around them, you're like, "Oh, is this acceptable?" Unless you hear them swear first, and then it's fair game. So he's probably never heard you swear, so he probably thought you just didn't curse.
I've never sworn. Yeah, it's just I could tell that him and this guy probably just sailor mouthed it all day, because he kind of said it was like it was nothing, like they did it all the time. And then he realized I was there, and it was really funny and kind of endearing, honestly. He looked at me and was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry."
So to shake that image, you have to drop at least 10 F-bombs throughout this episode.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, the vibe that I get from you is hardcore narc vibes. So I get it.
Oh, so who am I going to narc to?
You're going to narc.
In a workplace, I'm really going to go to the boss and be like, "This guy said a bad word." No, I wouldn't think I would do that. But maybe he thought so. I don't know. Something to monitor, I guess. But I'll drop some F daddies in this episode. Fuck, there's one right there. Just right out of the gate. Put the kids to bed. Also, maybe Nerdbomber, do we have a bleep button? We don't.
We used to. I think I got rid of it. I couldn't time it, It didn't work.
Yeah, you can't really use it. You don't know when I'm going to drop one.
Yeah, we were the worst censoring people. It'd be like, "Fuck."
Beep. Yeah, wouldn't really work. It'd be funny, though. We'll consider bringing it back. But in the meantime, it's a glorious time to be Nerdbomber, because Kingdom Hearts. So, okay, this is Kingdom Hearts. There's been a million Kingdom Hearts games. Well, is it Kingdom Hearts 4?
This
Like
is Kingdom
it's Kingdom Hearts
4.
4.
Yeah, so this is like, there's always the mainline games, which are the ones that typically debut on consoles. And then there's all like the little side games where they technically, if you're trying to get into Kingdom Hearts, technically you could go through and just play the main games, but you would be very confused. Like, the main games follow Sora, who is the main character who is seen in this trailer. If you're just coming in blind and you know nothing about Kingdom Hearts, the main guy throughout the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, that is Sora. And you usually have your Donald and Goofy pals and you go through Disney Worlds. Then the side games, like some of the games you do play as Sora, but they typically tend to focus on like side characters. I don't want to call them tertiary because every character in Kingdom Hearts seems to have like a bigger meaning or is connected in a way that you don't see coming at first.
They're all Xehanort.
A lot of the side characters that you meet, a lot of that interaction happens in the side games, and then it all kind of culminated in Kingdom Hearts 3, which was the end of an arc. And now the announcement of Kingdom Hearts 4 is the beginning of a new story arc. And so supposedly like Kingdom Hearts 3 was supposed to be, you know, the last one, but we all knew that wasn't true. And so it was the last one of that story arc. And now this is kind of like a new thing moving forward, as evidenced by like they have a flashy new Kingdom Hearts font logo thing going on for Kingdom Hearts 4. But that's going to be like the first mainline entry into this arc.
Not to be cynical, but like, yeah, franchises never die, especially if they're successful. This will probably never die. So there's a lot I want to dig into here. So first of all, Sora at one point got to sleep for 7 days, apparently. I just want to say that sounds really good. Like, I wish I could sleep for 7 days. I thought if someone said, "Do you want to sleep for 7 straight days with like no repercussions?" Would you do it? Because I would do it. Can you imagine how good you would feel when you woke up?
I'd be so hungry.
You'd be a little groggy too. Like, you know when you oversleep and then you're just like, you still got the grogs and you can't really wake up? Yeah,
it's great. I don't know. I'm really tired right now, so maybe that's just influencing my opinion of this. But me, as an outsider looking in, never played any of the Kingdom Hearts games. My takeaway here, one of my main takeaways was like such a huge portion of this trailer. When I think of Kingdom Hearts, I think of Disney characters. Mm-hmm. Through and through. That's like what it is. It's like Sora and the Keyblade and then a bunch of Disney characters. Donald Duck and Goofy didn't show up until like kind of the posts after they revealed the Kingdom Hearts whatever. I can't remember what it was. Is it called Kingdom Hearts 4 or is it something else?
Right now it's just titled Kingdom Hearts 4, yeah.
So after they revealed that, then was when we got Disney characters. Until then, it was more designed to be like, hey, this is a city with people in it and like they're going about their lives. There's like normal looking cars. It's a very like, if anything, it's like a realistic place. And then there's this like weird dark mass that shows up that starts, hecking things
Heartless.
up. Yeah, like, and this is like, again, considering what I imagine Kingdom Hearts to be or what I feel like it is, this is like pretty intense. Like at one point, this thing picks up a vehicle and the guy is like trying to get out as the vehicle goes and he opens the door and they didn't show it, but that guy died. Like, there's no way that guy didn't die, right?
So that's actually like kind of par for the course with Kingdom Hearts games. They are a little bit darker. So Kingdom Hearts, I actually kind of liken it to Star Wars in terms of the underlying themes.
What a great segue this is going to be.
It is. And if you do not know anything about Kingdom Hearts, don't want to know anything about Kingdom Hearts, want to somehow, for whatever reason, try to get into Kingdom Hearts 4 blind without knowing any background, you might want to tune out for a little bit. But essentially, the entire plot theme of at least the first Kingdom Hearts arc was, the battle between light and dark. And so you do have these big, black, heartless monsters. And even this actually gives off there's a lot of like mirror vibes between the very first Kingdom Hearts game back in like the 90s, 2000s, and this game. Because when the first Kingdom Hearts game kind of opens, you're on this island. It's all nice. You're woken up by a girl who you end up meeting and becoming very familiar with as the series goes on.
Very fond of.
But then this giant, big, black monster thing who looks a lot like what we're seeing in this trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4 basically destroys your idyllic island life and you suddenly get this Keyblade and you have to fight it off. And so essentially it's basically, darkness is taking over people and turning them into these big monsters called Heartless, basically, because it steals their heart. And you are the light trying to, fight through and save the world and the universe from darkness taking over. There's a lot more nuance that goes into the series, but it does, like, they never really show something super brutal and gruesome. But, this...
Right, there's no blood.
Right.
It's not that kind of thing. Yeah.
But, like, this kind of closely mirrors it because, like, much like in the first game, Sora is waking up and is getting confronted with, this massive heartless monster that he has to defeat. But the difference in the real departure here is how lifelike it looks. Like, Sora's art style is very different. Even if you're not familiar with the games, like, I'm sure you've seen the art. He looks very lifelike. His feet are not.
The internet's going nuts about his feet.
Yeah, his feet's a little weird.
What about the cargo pants?
The cargo pants he always wears.
That's
some big old pockets in those pants. Yeah, I'm just saying.
He went from huge shoes, though, to, like, just regular kicks. And that's what's nuts.
Are the pants where he keeps the Keyblade when he's not using it? Also, can you imagine waking up from a 7-day nap and immediately having to fight this thing? Like you said, you'd be like
charged.
I'm saying that's exhausting. He's like, he's parkouring around. He's doing a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I want to ask 2 questions. So he's in a realm that is lifelike, and there's going to be some sort of Disney IP. Nerdbomber.
Not in that realm. So that realm, and this is where, like, the Kingdom Hearts nerd in me comes out. So in the Toy Story land,
it's already out.
Yeah,
it's already out, but it's coming out more. Just continue.
So kind of break down like what at least I saw in this trailer. So where he wakes up, it's very lifelike. It's actually like based on Shibuya in Japan, and that is actually in Kingdom Hearts realm. So in the third game, there's a whole Toy Story world where you turn into a toy and it's super fun. But in the toy store where you're romping around as a toy with Buzz and Woody, there's a video game advertised called Verum Rex. And that takes place in the Quadratum, I believe is what they called it.
Yeah, it is.
And so I think we're supposed to believe that world, that video game world, is supposed to be more like lifelike our world, our reality, and it's actually the afterworld for all of the people who die in like Disney Square Enix verse. And then from there, though, like, obviously, yeah, that's where he starts out, and he's isolated from, as you mentioned, Illeagle, Donald and Goofy, but we see Donald and Goofy padding around in the underworld, which makes sense, and they come across somebody who is very obviously Hades, because Hercules and Hades play a very big part in the first few games, so actually they come up a lot. So obviously, if they think Sora is dead and in some kind of afterlife, they would go look for Hades to try to get some help. But where I think Illeagle is probably going to be the most excited is there's this very lifelike, like, luscious forest, right? And in one of the frames, you can see this big circular, almost looks like a foot of a robot. And I wonder if you know where that's going.
Well, they own Star Wars now. Is that where you're going?
Yep. It looks like the foot of an ATST. Is that right?
Or maybe an AT-AT.
Could be.
Do you know what ATST stands for, by the way? Nerd Trivia. We're doing a pre-game game. What do you think ATST stands for? Techtic, do you know?
At-Star?
It is.
I'm trying to think. No, automated. No. Something tells me it's all-terrain. Okay, go ahead. Tell me.
All-terrain scout transport, I believe, is what ATST stands for. AT-AT is all-terrain armored transport. Either of which, or both of which, could be in the next Kingdom Hearts game. That is super exciting. It would be interesting, and it's kind of like, I think when Disney bought Star Wars, it was kind of one of the things we were thinking about or envisioning, right? It was like, these characters interacting is now very much a possibility, especially in a world like the one
Marvel
that Kingdom
too.
Hearts has created.
But I don't think they're going to venture into that IP. That said, you always kind of have like either a squad or like you can activate supers where, you get the Little Mermaid doing a special attack with you or something like that. Do you think as they bounce between worlds that one, they're going to keep that mechanic? And two, do you think while he's in the lifelike realm, he'll have a different trio, say like Luke Skywalker and someone else to fight these battles? Or do you think he's just going to be rocking it solo? Ha, pun intended.
I'm going to defer to the expert on that one because I have absolutely no idea.
Not a single chuckle, you guys.
So I think initially we're going to see Sora by himself because obviously, he's been separated from his main squad. That said, like, I do think if we start getting back into Disney worlds, that means he's obviously escaped from the
Quadratum. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say Quadratum. I don't really know, but that's what I would say.
But he's obviously, if he gets into Disney worlds, he's escaped from the Quadratum. And I think that they would probably keep the mechanic where you have someone at least join your team. And the only reason I say that is just because it's a lifelike world. It doesn't mean that like they would drop the mechanic, because there is precedent, because Pirates of the Caribbean was in Kingdom Hearts 3. And not that he necessarily joined your squad, but he did at times. But like Jack Sparrow was there, and he wasn't like, you didn't lose Donald and Goofy when you had Jack Sparrow with you, you know? Like he was just there. So there is already precedent for crossing over into like the lifelike, non-cartoony world, if you will. So question for you, Illeagle.
Yeah, sure.
Star Wars, Marvel, they all get announced they're part of Kingdom Hearts 4. Are you going to play it?
No. And I know that makes you sad, but the reason simply is that even watching this trailer, where like I don't have the context. Like if I'm gonna play this game, I feel like I have to at least play 3 first, and even then, like where do you start?
There is a solid, if you ever did want to get into it or like figure out Kingdom Hearts at all, and this is for anybody, I guess. There are like good 3-hour YouTube videos out there, and you basically have to sit down and be like, this is a movie, I'm strapping in, grab some popcorn, and they basically take all the cutscenes, all the important cutscenes, and they kind of give you a big overview of the entire series, and then you're like, okay, I get this, I know what's going on now.
But that's like, you know, and
it's an investment.
We're going to talk a little bit about this same sort of thing when we get to Multiverse of Madness later, but like I think without context, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. I would get lost. Or even if I didn't get lost, there would be things that would fly over my head that I will feel like I've missed out on. So that's the reason for my answer. You know, if they announce Star Wars tomorrow, obviously that would raise the stock of this game in my head, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go play it and just kind of forego everything else that's happened. This is the Lost Master arc is what they're calling this. We haven't mentioned that yet. And yeah, it is also referred to in the trailer as, and I'm quoting now, magic in the making, which means there's no release date for this. Like that, to me, it's just a fancy way of saying, we don't know. We don't know when this is coming, but it is coming.
The other thing before we transition that I want to ask is, so Sora is not the first person to die in Kingdom Hearts. There's been a number of villains. There's even been characters.
Spoiler alert.
I believe Meg from Hercules even died. So that implies that all of these people went to this realm. Do you think we're going to see some of these tertiary Disney characters, or probably more likely, do you think we're going to see some of the other Keyblade wielders that have since passed on through 1, 2, and 3?
No one dies. This is exactly the kind of franchise / world / IP where no one dies.
Yeah, they've basically forced themselves to have sort of a endless recurring cast, and I think that kind of takes
it's a fun idea.
It kind of takes the gravitas out of people dying, but also opens up the world for, holy cow, so-and-so's back. They were so cool.
Well, I don't know if it totally removes the gravitas, though, because so we saw throughout the series, like Sora used, is it the power of healing? I feel like I'm a bad fan that I can't nail this down, but I believe it's the power of healing to basically bring people back. But in order to do that, you needed to be a Keyblade master. So I don't think it necessarily like completely devoids the series of gravitas, because unless you're a Keyblade master, and there aren't that many of them in the series, you can't tap into like this power of resurrection.
So they'll still be trapped in that realm. Yes, I agree with that. And it's no different than, departing from loved ones where you didn't have Skype or whatever. That's a bad example, but you guys know what I'm saying.
I feel like it's a little different than that.
But
yeah,
my point is, do you think they're going to introduce some of these other characters, be it that they might not be able to return with Sora, but we'll be able to see them again, and it'll have sort of a bit of a reunion take?
I don't know. I feel like what they're going to try to do, and kind of how they framed this trailer, and maybe I'm wrong, is they're going to try to have it almost where like he's lost and he's alone and he has to try to figure it out by himself, because he's always had, other people by his side for the most part. And yeah, like I think they're going to try to open this as like kind of his journey of self-discovery and finding his true inner power, blah, blah, blah.
Is he the Lost Master?
That's what I'm assuming. Like, I know there's other characters it could be, but like, I'm pretty sure they're referring to him because he lost. He a master. And
also, by the way, another thing, very popular thing where no one ever dies, and yet there's still gravitas. Comic books. Yeah. Lazarus pits, different dimensions. No one's ever dead. People can always come back. And like you said, it can be super, super exciting. So the magic is in the making.
I appreciate you
TBD.
letting me rant for what's like a good 20 minutes about Kingdom Hearts because I was very excited. You have to understand, like, the gap between 2 and 3 was basically the better part of like puberty for me. And so I don't have to wait. Like, Kingdom Hearts 3 just came out. I feel like this is a gift. I was not expecting
I remember talking about Kingdom Hearts 3 on this podcast. So that was what? That was in 2019. Sorry. It's right in front of me here. So 3 years ago, and now we're getting something again. So yeah, you're living your glory days here.
Absolutely.
Like I said, to start this topic. So that's exciting. Let's keep our topics. Kingdom Hearts is a family-oriented thing. Let's stay family-oriented. Let's talk about family. Fast and Furious 10, baby. It's coming whether you want it or not. I feel like that should be the tagline of Fast and Furious 10. It's coming whether you want it or not. And they got Brie Larson. I feel like the running storyline of Fast and Furious and like the Fast and Furious franchise is a new movie comes out, and if you're me, you don't bother seeing it, but you just kind of see it and you're like, wow, they got that person. That's like, to me, that's like the running. It's almost like a running joke of the franchise. It's like they got Kurt Russell, they got Charlize Theron. They got, Idris Elba. Like they're just accruing famous people who I think it's got to be very fun to be an actor or actress. And I can do a stint on Fast and the Furious, and it'll just be the most gonzo time ever. Like, I don't blame them. I don't blame Brie Larson. I don't blame anyone. It just it tickles me. And
at this point,
as we always do, these Fast and Furious movies, what's left for them to do? I think is what do they do with her?
Well, that's
my question.
That's what I was going to say. At this point, I'm actually surprised that the news was they got Brie Larson and that it wasn't they got Captain Marvel. Like that.
Right, exactly.
That's the insanity that I could see being in the Fast and the Furious, where they're like, "Guys, we got to do this insane thing," and then Vin Diesel's like, "I know a girl," and then he like calls Captain Marvel. She comes from space, and then they like lift the car up into space.
Could you imagine Captain Marvel doesn't return to Earth for like Thanos, any of that stuff, but Vin Diesel
But
calls.
she comes back.
Do you want to know why
Yeah.
she helped Vin Diesel? Because they're family.
It's family, yeah. Dom Toretto's latest heist. She's like, I got to get involved in this. Fast and Furious 10, by the way, I was scrolling around here. First half of a 2-part finale. Guys, Fast and Furious is ending.
Wait, it's actually ending?
I guess so. Fast and Furious 10 is set to come out May 19th, 2023. It will serve as the first half of a 2-part finale for the series. So I think I said this before on the podcast, but if you would allow me a brief moment to speculate on what Fast 10 and I guess maybe Fast 11 are going to do, because again, at this point, there's not much left for them to do that they haven't already done with cars. Right? I'll just tell you right now, it's cars in space. There's going to be cars up in space and or on the moon. That is the bar, and I do believe they're going to hit it.
You think that's where they're going to end it?
I think I'm hoping. I feel like on this show, it very often occurs, and I'm going to give him his due credit here. Techtic will make a prediction, and then like a trailer will come out or some article will come out where he is proven correct, and I want that for myself. And this is the prediction that I am choosing to hang my hat on, is in the Fast and Furious movies, before they are done, they are going to space. I mean, at this point, what else can they do? They've
Didn't
gone.
they already
they've
go
gone
to
underwater.
space? I'm pretty sure they went to space.
No.
They haven't gone to space. They got dropped out of a plane, so they got like halfway to space.
I could see them
They've been
having
on
like a new
ice.
villain being like a Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos-y type character, and they have to heist something from them, but it's on.
You know what they haven't done? They
The
haven't
penis
drilled
airplane.
down to the core of the Earth and ran into
It's another option.
like Gears of War people because family.
Did they do? I'm not sure if they've done volcanoes. Idris Elba, by the way, his character, who I believe is like still going on in those movies, he's like, I think he's like half robot or something. Like he's cybernetically like involved. I think it's kind of his character's thing.
It's kind of wild to me how those movies went from like Paul Walker and Vin Diesel street racing to like they're kind of car racing superheroes. It's so confusing the path that those movies took. Like they're not bad. They're like I don't know, they're fun action flicks, but it's like what?
If you take them for what they are, and you know, I'm sitting here kind of ragging on them a little bit because it's very easy to do. It's a very easy target, but like you're totally right. When you look at what they have done, which, like, by the way, The Fast and the Furious, I believe when it came out, people were like, this is a good movie about street racing. Like, it's, some people probably think the topic and like the premise of the movie is a little ridiculous, but like it stayed a little bit grounded and it made some sense and it came across very good. And then I think Fast and the Furious 2, which should have been called Faster and More Furious, but it wasn't. I think it was the same sort of thing where people were like, oh, this is pretty good. And then Tokyo Drift happened. And then like
Tokyo Drift, some people are going to come at me for this, but Tokyo Drift was underrated and actually pretty good.
But it was still like I think the first three were like, okay, we're street racing. That's what we do. That's the whole thing.
It felt like Need for Speed Most Wanted, but in movie format.
I think it was somewhere between 4 and 5 where they were like, all right, forget it. We're just going ham sandwich. Like how they transitioned from that smaller scale of the first 3 movies to like just absolute blockbuster bull crap. Like it honestly is. It's a success story. Like let's call it like Hobbs and Shaw came out. That wasn't even a mainline Fast and Furious movie. I did go see that one because I was like, these are side characters. It's probably really fun. At that point I had AMC A-List or whatever it was called. So I was like, this is basically free. I'm going to go see it. And you know what? Like I had a good time. Like it was really dumb. But if you go into it kind of knowing what to expect, by the way, if you're an actor or an actress too, going into it and knowing what to expect, which is like the expectations for me are going to be very low here. And I'm going to get to have a good time with a very, very big ensemble cast. Like, yeah, if I was Brie Larson and I was approached, like, of course I'm going to do it, you know?
Well, like, plus, even if your character does get written off, you know, it's never say never, basically. And a good, I realize I'm like treading on weird ground, but I'm talking specifically about like Letty, Dom's wife, like dies and then gets resurrected as if it was a comic book movie. And it was like, what? But that happens in the series. And like, that's open, that the door is always open.
Well, I remember, I can't remember, I think it was Fast 8, one of the recent ones, Fast 8 or Fast 9. I think again, we talked about it on the podcast, like the guy who gets shot in Tokyo Drift. He gets killed. I can't think of his name. Is it Han? I think it's Han. He just like comes back. Like he's back. And it's just, it's the same sort of thing where it's just like they've created this universe that is so over the top ridiculous. They have these set pieces that make no sense, but like everyone's just kind of having a good time. And it does definitely work. It's just, I think you have to take it like Fast 11. That's going to have, it's going to be like Endgame, I think, where like, you know, the cast list and like the ending credits is going to be this big thing of like, there's going to be like 30 famous people credited, you know, with top billing in that movie. Cause probably all the like Kurt Russell, like even anyone who's died can come back. So like everyone's going to come back and it's going to be this crazy spectacle. And like, I'm not going to lie. There's like, I'm a little envious of all the fans who have been there since day one, who are going to get to experience that. It's probably going to be amazing.
Dr. Dom, the multitude of madness.
So question, in like 30, 40 years, when young kids are going through movie collections and they see this 12 movie series, what are they going to think about it?
They're going to laugh at us and never watch them.
They're going to,
we stream everything. There is no DVD box set.
Well, but you taking the question for what it is, like they're going to watch the first 2 and then like watch the third one and be like, wait, what is this? And then like by the 5th one, they're going to be like, is this like are my parents playing a practical joke on me? That's what it's going to feel like for them. And I don't blame them for feeling that way. They might really, really like it. Like knowing as little as I know about Gen Z, which is very little, Fast and the Furious seems like the kind of thing that would appeal to them. I don't know if that's true or not.
They'd watch it ironically.
At OW Illeagle 86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber, and our main show account at Online Warriors 1. We want to hear from the Gen Zers who listen to this show. What's your take on the Fast and the Furious? Do you like family? Are you about family? Because that's what Fast and Furious is ostensibly about. Let us know. And also, if you're just a fan of the franchise, let us know what you're looking forward to or what you think Brie Larson's part in this movie is going to be, because right now, not a lot of anything is known about that. So that brings us to around the halfway point, which means we're going to take a short break. But before we do that, Mr. Stephen Keller, take a bow. You are a noble, valiant knight, and we salute you. Stephen is one of our night level subscribers. He is a Patreon producer on this show. He supports us on Patreon. As a result, he gets access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, of course, but he also gets input into the weekly game segment. He gets this producer's shout out, and he gets the occasional guest spot on the show. That is the night level subscription. There's also a Squire level subscription, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and a page level subscription, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So for any of the details on all of those levels of support, support, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Check us out there. Say hi to Steven. Say hi to us. Join us at our square table of knightdom and help us keep the mics on. Thanks again to Steven. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be right back to talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
The weather's getting warmer, and it is time to think about your skin. If you have skin and are concerned about getting things like skin cancer, don't be afraid to wear sunblock. Just rub a little bit in, and it goes a long way. Also, as an additional side note, wear hats. Hats are great. You look cool in them, and it protects the old top of your dome, especially if you got that thin hair like I do. So be sure to look out for your skin and get routine checkups. This has been your weekly health public service announcement. So with that, we'll get on right back to our show.
Okay, Doctor Strange. Guys, he's in the Multiverse of Madness. Not only is he in the multiverse, but it's crazy over here. This movie's coming to theaters May 6th, less than a month away. So Marvel's given us one last sizzle, and there's a lot going on here. Three-eyed Doctor Strange, definitely a highlight. There's a lot of Christine Palmer coming back. So if you were a fan of hers and we're hoping she's going to come back, she is back. We already mentioned, and we've talked about this movie in the past, that Mordo is back, but I also feel like one of the major touch points here, and kind of what I alluded to before, this movie is clearly going to be, it's going to be about Doctor Strange predominantly, but this is going to be a huge WandaVision movie, a huge Wanda movie, Wanda Maximoff movie. And it is very clearly based just on this trailer going to draw on a lot of things that happened in WandaVision. So to me, and maybe this is an incorrect interpretation, but like, I see this as the first real jumping off point for Marvel, the MCU at the movies, kind of saying, okay, we are fully assuming at this point that our fans are watching these shows on Disney Plus. And furthermore, if you want to know what's going on, you're going to have to watch those things. But like, I wonder, I guess, aloud, is this going to get more people to watch WandaVision? Are they going to see this trailer and think, oh crap, I finally got to get that out of the way, because otherwise I'm not going to know what's going on. That to me, that's a major shift here, and it was bound to happen eventually. But I think we're now going to see that kind of play out for the first time. It's very exciting.
So I tend to disagree a little bit. I think that there's a lot of head fakes, and a little bit of that was sort of fan service to, if you have watched it, you're going to enjoy this, but I think it'll be fine if you haven't. Additionally, this is kind of put some credibility to all of the Marvel what ifs that we've seen as far as alternate universes, because we also saw a Marvel Zombies scene, which was zombie Stephen Strange. And so, which by the way, he's a good zombie, so don't worry about that. But that gives credibility to Earth 2149, which is the zombie realm. And so I think this is a lot of head fakey to make you kind of not really see what path it's going. But at the end of the day, I think that the zombie Stephen Strange is just kind of a little wink to that. And then ultimately that there's going to be really a couple different possibilities of who the evil Doctor Strange is, and what those possibilities are is a function of what direction the Marvel Universe is going to take. So the first one could be that it's the alternate reality version of where he's turns out to be the disciple of Dormammu.
Right, from the first Doctor Strange movie.
Right, but instead of him taking him out, he just became his disciple, which I don't think that's it. I think that's just kind of a lame alternate version. There's not a lot to be had there. It's just whatever. The other side of it, which this one I think has a little bit more credibility, but it's ultimately not the one I'm going to go towards. He is the Counter-Earth universe where he also succumbed to evil, but he had the same exact backstory. The only difference is he avenged the Ancient One's death by killing Baron Mordo, and he became the Necromancer, which is sort of a corrupt, super strong sorcerer. But again,
Baron Mordo didn't kill the Ancient One in the movies.
In this timeline, Baron Mordo killed the Ancient One, and Doctor Strange avenged him, and that was like the first path down to darkness. This is the two that I think that are most interesting. There is the Cancerverse, where death just doesn't exist, and it's just filled with corruption, and it's called the Cancerverse because since no one can die, it's just continuous growth. While interesting, again, I don't think it's the path. What we have seen time and time again is we're building a young Avengers. And so there's a very key point in the Doctor Strange arc where one of his disciples, Casey Kinmont, he returns home and he comes face to face with a similar version of himself where no one can tell the difference. And I think it's going to be a misguided apprentice fighting him. And that's going to be a huge head fake because we think it's really going to be this big battle between Doctor Strange and evil Doctor Strange. And I don't think that at all. I think that is just a head fake to start the rising of Casey Kinmont as the young Avenger version of him. And so that's the path that I think he's going to take. And I think that they're really just trying to fake us out. And it's just going to be this twisty ride for ultimately building up that new story arc. That is my Techtic prediction.
I would like to also make a prediction with way less information. Before I make a prediction, do we know what he had on his wrists at one point? Because that was very eye-catching and I don't know what it was. You know what I'm talking about. Like right at the beginning of the trailer, he's like, looks like he's waking up somewhere with like, it looks like handcuffs, but they're not handcuffs. I don't know. I'm putting you on the spot. Do you know what those were? Because I had no idea what they were and they looked important.
I didn't hone in on those to give you an answer.
Okay, and that's fine. We'll find out. My prediction is that we're going to go through this whole movie with our Doctor Strange as he traverses different multiverses. He's going to fight a bunch of things, most predominantly perhaps evil Doctor Strange, and he's going to come out the other side like any good superhero movie. He's going to come out and he's going to win. And then in the mid-credits and or post-credits scene, we're going to find out that he's not good Doctor Strange. Good Doctor Strange is back in one of the other multiverses, and he has been replaced with an evil. Yes, I think there's going to be a switcheroo, and he is going to be set up as a quasi-villain, maybe like an Ebony Maw kind of character for Kang the Conqueror or something to come later so that characters will have to fight him. That is my bold prediction. I'm taking some hip shots today. That's the one I'm taking with this. So yeah, Nerdbomber, thoughts?
So you all know that Doctor Strange is kind of like my weak point in the Marvel universe. It looked cool. I feel like I don't have good theories because I just don't know enough about the character.
And that's just why I think that I don't think they would use him to set up this huge story arc. Even if you look at the first Doctor Strange, you could have never seen that one, and it really wouldn't have affected any of the other movies because they just simply use him to build this small arc, which plays a role in the bigger picture, but it's not this overarching thing.
See, I don't know if I agree. Like, I like Doctor Strange as a character a lot, and actually, the first Doctor Strange movie, I agree that it's relatively self-contained, but they do set up, you know, they cite the Time Stone as one of the Infinity Stones at the end of that movie, and I think it sets a good tone for the scale of enemies as we continue into the MCU and obviously eventually get to Infinity War and Endgame and things like that. I think it sets the tone effectively for like, we're not just dealing with like Ultron anymore. We're dealing with mystical threats. We're dealing with off-planet threats and all these kinds of things. And I don't know, to me, I thought it was a very important piece in that puzzle, but you know, it might just be because I like the character. And I'm really looking forward to this movie. This is one I'm probably going to see in theaters just because I'm a big fan of Doctor Strange and Benedict Cumberbatch. Big fan of his.
Oh, I am too. Don't get me wrong. I just know the way that Marvel has treated this character thus far, so I'm using that as my single point data.
Well, again, Multiverse of Madness is going to hit theaters May 6th of this year. So I'll be going to check it out, maybe even on opening weekend. We'll see. But I think it's going to be a big jumping off point for, you know, the next phase of the MCU, which is ongoing, certainly, but we haven't gotten a whole lot of movies yet. So I think this is going to be a big jumping off point. That brings us now to What Are You Up To Wednesday, where we talk about what we've been up to.
I feel like we need a snappy jingle. Like, what are you up to Wednesday?
Yeah, there we go. Just when you're editing this episode, just snip that recording and put it on one of your buttons. And we'll have it for every week.
Put it on one of your buttons.
I'm going to do something different this week. I'm going to go first, which isn't that different. But, you know, if you've ever moved before, you know that it's a fairly all-encompassing thing. And like, I'm basically living in two places right now, and there's not a whole lot of free time to like talk, like even like watch shows and like do things. Like I'm continuing to watch Moon Knight, but that's pretty low impact. And like, instead of trying to dig up some sort of small dredge of free time and talk about what I did, I want to tell a brief story about my moving experience that some of you may find amusing, some of you may find boring, hopefully the former. So last week, I was putting up a video doorbell at my new house because I live in the 21st century. Okay, I'm firmly planted there. I had bought this video doorbell. Actually, I received it as a gift a couple years ago. It was a totally fine working doorbell at my old place. I was just reinstalling it. And, you know, you take the old doorbell off. There are wires sticking out. You put the video doorbell on the wires, and it should power on. That's basically how this is supposed to work. Doorbells have chimes, and you might have to wire up the chime a little bit with a little diode fuse thing, but we couldn't find the chime box, and we couldn't find the doorbell transformer. Now, if you're a homeowner, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't own a home, you may not. But the point is, we couldn't find the electrical circuit in the house that the doorbell was connected to. So I did what any self-respecting person would do. I gave up, and I went to Techtic, and I said, Techtic, you got to help me, man. And he said, look for the transformer. I looked in the attic. I looked under the stairs in the basement. I was looking all over the place. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find any breaker that was labeled doorbell, nothing. I was like, this doorbell is imaginary power. I don't even know where this wire goes. So I was giving up, thinking I was going to have to call an electrician. Until last week, I was poking around in the basement looking for that transformer, looking on the ceiling, looking around everywhere. I was like, there's wires going around on the rafters. One of these wires has to be a doorbell wire. And then my eyes fall towards the floor, and I see an outlet, and you know, one of those little AC power adapters, just like you would use to plug in, like, you know, speakers or an alarm clock, and it's unplugged. And I'm like, what is that? And I follow the cord up the side of the wall and around a rafter and into the insulation. This doorbell was plugged into the freaking wall.
Weird, it wasn't hardwired in?
At one point, either myself or my fiance had unplugged it. So the moral of the story is, if you need to know where your doorbell's getting power from, it wasn't wired to the house. It was just this guy bought, the previous owner bought the thing himself. There was previously a Google doorbell on this house, and he clearly just was like, this. I think the house didn't have a chime box or a doorbell, and he just like jerry-rigged this himself. The point is, now I have a working video doorbell, but it made me feel like a real idiot.
I really thought you were building up to, guys, I found the transformer.
No, I wish I could do a Mark Wahlberg impression, but it was a much more simpler conclusion of just look for outlets with things that are unplugged. That's probably going to give you a hint as to what your doorbell is supposed to be drawing power from. That's just a little taste of the minutia that I'm currently dealing with of moving into a house, and also moving a lot of boxes, and also my back hurts, and also I'm very tired. So I'm going to defer.
Getting swole.
God, not getting swole, more like getting decrepit. Nerdbomber, what have you been up to?
So really still plugging away at all the games that I've been plugging away at. Nothing really new to report there. But we did watch a movie. And have you ever just been in the mood for like kind of a 2000s rom-com, you know? And there's not
Please tell me you watched
those.
Hitch.
No. We watched J-Lo and Owen Wilson in
Oh my gosh, you actually watched it. So I do want to watch this.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. If you go in thinking that it's going to be a standard J-Lo rom-com, that's exactly what you're going to get. And you know what? That's what I was looking for.
Marry me, say yes.
My only critiques was that I didn't necessarily buy J-Lo with Owen Wilson. Well,
you know why?
He looked a little too old and haggard, and I know that was kind of the point, was that, you know, she kind of picked him out of the crowd as like something different, and he was just a math teacher who had no idea of really who she was and like wasn't in the lifestyle, and that's kind of why they bonded.
Right, and I'm sure he didn't like prejudge her. You know, that was probably like a big part of the whole thing.
You know what never happened in the entire movie, now that I'm thinking about it? Like, can we all agree that J-Lo is stunning?
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, to J-Lo. She's engaged in real life as of like this past weekend. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah, it's a Ben Affleck.
She could.
Good for her.
And you know what though? No, she could do so much better. I don't like Ben Affleck. I'm ready to say I think
you're just going back to that.
Ben Affleck.
But let me say
he just reels in ladies who are he's too good for him. I'm sorry, Ben, but that's how I feel.
I mean, he must have something going on for him, though. I mean, J-Lo already did this once before, and she was like, you know what? Let me go back for seconds.
He doesn't deal with BS. You could just tell.
I suppose not. But well, anyways, Techtic, go on. You were going to say something more important than that.
So she is stunning, and you would think at least once she'd walk in the room, he'd look at her, their eyes would connect, and you know what he would say? Wow. Not once.
That's right.
Not once in the whole movie.
Wow. Hey, wow.
Not once.
Have you guys watched that video on YouTube where he just says wow like 100 times?
Everybody.
It's an amazing video.
But that's why it wasn't believable.
Yeah. Missed opportunity.
But I mean, that said, it was It was a cute movie. I think like I said, if you know what you're going in for, like, you're going to get exactly what you're assuming this movie is. I thought J-Lo, like, it almost felt a little biopic-y because her character is like, oh, I've been engaged or married 3 or 4 times. I'm just looking for the one that will stick. And you can tell this is like prior to Ben Affleck because I feel like they had this movie in the can for a while and just were holding on to it and waiting for theaters to reopen with COVID. But like, it even had some like bangers of a soundtrack. Like, I really think this was J-Lo. Like, she thought this is going to be like, I'm going to relaunch myself here.
Didn't she marry one of her backup dancers at one point? I believe, and isn't that how this movie starts?
Maybe.
Or no, this movie, she's like gonna marry another pop star or something, or she's dating another pop star.
Yeah, she's gonna marry another pop star. They're supposed to get married on stage, and then she finds out during that concert where they're supposed to get married that he cheated on her. And so she is already like in her wedding dress and just sees Owen Wilson in the crowd holding a marry me sign because his daughter or friend had him hold it while she like fixed her shoe. And she's like, okay, I'll marry you, and calls him up on stage.
Didn't she marry Mark Anthony, or did they date?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Wow.
They were together for a while. Don't they have kids together too? I don't know.
We're wading into water that I have no business being in at this point. So I really don't know.
But like,
yeah,
it did feel a little biopic-y. It kind of did. Some of the songs were bangers though. Like, they're pretty good.
My dad would.
J-Lo still has it.
My dad would and is going to absolutely love this movie. Like, you ever see a movie trailer or something and you're like, my dad's gonna love it. That happens to me all the time. For what it's worth, my dad's got very specifically understandable taste in movies. He loves rom-coms. He loves rom-coms that have a really stupid underlying premise. And that's not me being mean. That's just like, this is a ridiculous premise for a movie. I'm glad to hear it worked because I think it's cool, but it's just like, it's...
Our dads have very different taste. I get that vibe every time I watch Halo, not Marry Me.
Yeah, I don't think Halo would really be my dad's cup of tea. That's cool though.
Well, it's on Peacock, so tell them to check it out.
Duly noted.
Wow.
Hey, wow. Techtic. Is that us going to Techtic? Is that the silence? Is that what that's intending to mean?
Yes, it is.
T-Dog.
So I've got 2 major updates. The first one is, guys, we watched The Bubble, and I thought this movie was going to be trash, but it was actually entertaining. It was funny. It was a little over the top at moments, but like, it wasn't like so stupid where it was bad. And I was here for it. They did things well where like some of it hit home in a comical way, and it was done really well. I can't say really more without giving you spoilers, but definitely check it out if you've got nothing else to watch. That sounds like not a good thing, but definitely check it out if you got nothing else.
Was Pedro Pascal in it, or am I misremembering?
He was probably my favorite actor in the movie.
It's a big
of
it's a big month for him. He's coming out with, and this is another movie I'm going to have to see, the Nicky Cage movie. And I don't know if you guys, this is total offshoot topic, but
it looks hilarious.
I don't know if you guys saw it too. To promote that movie, he did, and like, if you're listening to this right now, you haven't heard, you should go check this out right now. He did an AMA, Nicolas Cage did, on Reddit for the first time. And it was like, you should go read some of what he wrote, because he's a very interesting man. Obviously, we all know that. But it turned out to be like, I think the most successful AMA they've ever done on the site. And like, I think it got more like traffic than Obama's or something. Like, you should go look at it, because it's like, that's a news topic in and of itself. But yeah, big month for Pedro Pascal.
And then the other update was just on a sudden purchase, just a random thing. I bought a rotisserie, and guys, let me tell you.
Oh, this was good.
Yeah, if you've got a grill, get yourself a universal rotisserie attachment, because you marinate it the day before, then you just throw it on there. Hour and a half later, you have a juicy chicken.
You just stick a whole chicken on there?
It's just stick the whole chicken. Just skewer it, turn it up to, I did around 350 to 400 degrees. It was a little windier, so I turned it up a little bit just because some of the heat loss would have been just from convection and things like that. But all in all, just make sure to get your temperature probe or cook it longer if you don't have one of those. I couldn't find mine, so I risked it for the biscuit as far as salmonella goes.
Did you?
You did?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't find the probe.
Did you set it and then did you forget it?
Every time I tell people about my rotisserie, they ask me that exact question. And damn you infomercials. No, I didn't set it and forget it.
You got to set it and forget it. Otherwise, what's the point? Why have one?
I set it for about a half hour, then basted it with some more marinade, then did another half hour, then basted it.
You're not doing it right. You're supposed to set it and forget it. I've been told this about 100 times. I don't even own a rotisserie.
It just do it my way. Don't listen to Illeagle, because you'll end up with a nice crispy crush, juicy chicken on the inside. And
when it comes to just cooking, that's probably just a generally good outlook on life. Is just listen to Techtic and don't listen to me. I've literally overcooked and destroyed frozen pizzas, so I shouldn't be relied upon for any sort of cooking expertise. But that's great. That sounds great.
It was.
Speaking of cooking expertise, I'm assuming that was the last thing you had in your docket, Techtic.
It is now.
Oh, sorry. Was there something else?
No.
Oh. Well, speaking of cooking expertise, our quiz this week, hosted by me. Sorry to take the announcement from you, Illeagle, but it's all about McDonald's.
I love McDonald's. Look, that's Jim Gaffigan did a whole bit about how people are ashamed to admit that they like McDonald's. I like McDonald's. Okay, I'm an American.
It's good.
I am who I am. Anyways, go on. I'm excited for this.
So, as always, this is Price is Right style trivia, all numeric. You have to get closer than the other person without busting to get the point. Let's start this off with the amount of McDonald's love we have in the United States. So there are almost more than 1.5 times more McDonald's locations than hospitals in the United States. How many McDonald's locations are there?
First of all, that's a good, I know we're laughing, that's a good ratio, because that means we're relatively healthy. It's not true at all. It's just, that's pseudoscience. First of all, I'm 5-4, Techtic is 4-5, so there's a lot on the line here. Nerdbomber also 4-5, and Steven, 1-0. Good job to Steven, staying undefeated. Assuming I'm going to go first, you asked how many locations there are in the is it continental United States or the whole United States?
It just says United
States.
I'm
including Alaska and Hawaii. That's critical. 1.5 times the number of hospitals. I mean, it's got to be 25,000.
Techtic, what say you?
So let me think about this. At a minimum, right? This is really low. There's 50 states in the U.S. So let's assume at the bare minimum that there's one hospital per state. And let's now call that BS and say that there's 3 hospitals per state. Now, that seems low too. Let's say that there's 5 hospitals per state. 5 times 50 is 250 times 1.5. This seems way too low. I'm just going to say 1,000.
That is super low. So for reference, the city in which you currently live, I think there's 7 hospitals.
Wow.
So
good for us.
But there are 14,000.
Oh man, come on!
McDonald's locations versus about 10,660 hospitals. So Techtic gets the point just by virtue of illegal busting, even though he was nowhere in the realm.
I was hungry, y'all. I went big on that one. Okay, that's fine. I'm not mad.
There's really that many hospitals? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Next question up.
Where I grew up, it felt like the hospital was so far away. Wow.
Sounds bad.
According to a study cited by Reader's Digest, how long is the average drive-through transaction in seconds at McDonald's?
On average. All right. So I've been a cashier at one point in my life, and they had those time things, and then it said if you did good or if you did bad, and that shit got under your skin. And so I'm gonna say they're hauling mass. So I'm gonna say that it is 93 seconds.
Oh, it's way more than that. I mean, look, drive-thrus are good. They're not that good. I'm going to conservatively say 120 seconds, but it's probably more than even that.
Illeagle ties it up. The average McDonald's drive-thru transaction takes roughly 3 minutes or 189.49 seconds.
It's not bad, though.
It's not bad.
That isn't really bad because that's you ordering, waiting behind the other person to get their food at the window, paying, getting your food.
That's all of that?
Yeah.
I got to say, pay McDonald's workers more because they're hauling. They deserve more.
You guys ever watch that, the Founder, the movie about the guy who made McDonald's, who created it? It's pretty good. Michael Keaton's really good in it. I'm just thinking about that right.
I love Michael Keaton.
Thinking about that right now.
It's what he did after Batman.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, so this tie game, heading into question 3. Stella Liebeck filed charges against McDonald's after receiving third-degree burns from a cup of McDonald's coffee spilled on her lap on February 27th, 1992. How much did she win in lawsuit earnings from McDonald's?
When did you say this was? Did you say when it was?
1992.
Yeah, they made a Seinfeld, basically they made a Seinfeld episode about this. 1.2 million. dollars.
So if you actually read the story, this was grossly blown out of proportion. She actually wanted just to have her medical bills covered, and it was actually significantly less.
Have you read this story lately?
I actually know this story. It was significantly less, and it was a valid case because the coffee should not have been hot enough to cause third-degree burns. That's why, actually, case in point, products like, say, your Keurig, if you ever notice, the coffee's not scalding hot for the same reason. There's requirements for the coffee to be at a set max temperature to prevent those type of burns. This was a real issue, and the media and that blew it out of proportion to discourage frivolous lawsuits, while this wasn't a frivolous lawsuit because people just didn't have the facts. And so I'm going to say $1 because I know that it's actually not that much. Like I said, it was just to cover medical expenses. The more you know.
So you gave us a lot more context than I even knew about this story. So that's interesting.
It's impressive.
I do know, though, she originally wanted only $20,000, though that is not the answer. McDonald's ended up refusing her offers many, many times, and then they actually ended up paying her out $640,000. Although at one point the jury did decide on an award of $2.9 million, but the judge reduced it because they said it was outrageous. So she got $640,000, which means Techtic takes the lead once again. This is very back and forth.
I don't feel that bad about that because it sounds like I was in the ballpark at one point in the story of the case. Mm-hmm. So, okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's continue.
So believe it or not, McDonald's famous fries were not always on the menu. They were actually preceded by potato chips. In what year were the chips replaced by fries? If you can't tell, I had a lot of fun making this quiz.
This was in 1978.
It was quite a bit earlier than that. I was going to use my +1, but I don't think I can because I think you're too high. I'm going to say 1960 because I think you're too high.
All right, so actually you both busted. I guess this is a little bit of a trick question because it was close to when McDonald's...
It was like 1950 or something. Gosh, darn it.
1949, yeah, was when the French fries replaced the potato chips on the menu, and that's actually when the triple thick milkshake made its debut as well.
I really thought it was going to be something surprisingly
I should have said like 1800 or so. I should have been smarter than that. That's on me. Okay.
So this last question, unless we need a tiebreaker, is probably my favorite one that I put together. I have a standard order at McDonald's. I pretty much get the same thing every time unless I deviate and get like a special. How many milligrams of potassium is in my typical McDonald's order?
Okay, so...
Just so you know, I'm going to give it the
I was going to say,
special.
I have to get this exactly correct, which is basically impossible, but hey, let's have a good time. Nerdbomber's... I need to try and figure out Nerdbomber's typical McDonald's order. Now, I tell you right now, there better be some nugs in there. I think Nerdbomber goes for... Well, no, this is really hard, actually. I think she might be a quarter pounder gal. I'm going to say quarter pounder with cheese.
Rude. That's my fiance.
Quarter pounder with cheese, medium fry, and a medium Coca-Cola. That gets you, 28 grams of potassium. I don't know. I'm totally spitballing here. 28 grams is my answer, Bob. Or did you say milligrams or grams?
Milligrams.
28 milligrams. I have no idea. 28 milligrams.
29.
There we go.
All right, so my order actually has 980 milligrams of potassium, which is actually equal to 20% of your daily value of potassium.
I was really close.
So let me just run you through my
really
order.
Close.
So I always get a McDouble. That is just my thing. I get a McDouble. Then I round it out with small fries and a 4-piece chicken nugget with barbecue dip.
It's very similar to what I do.
And then a Diet Coke.
It's very similar to what I do. I don't do the Diet Coke, but I usually do like a 6-piece nug if I can get it, a McDouble, and a medium fry. Although I will say, you gotta love yourself, girl. Get a double cheeseburger because McDouble only got 1 piece of cheese on it.
Does anyone else get a large cup of water instead of a soda? Because for whatever reason, fountain drink water just hits better.
No, because the fountain drink soda straight from the McDonald's machine is just like top notch. I don't know what they do to it, but it's super good.
The ratio is like different of like the syrup and it's like a documented thing at this point. I don't think people know the ratio, but they know the ratio is different because they're doing something back there. Well, congrats, Techtic. I've been bested fair and square, and that moves you to me and you are now tied for the lead. You moved to 5-5. I moved to 5-5. Nerdbomber at 4-5. Steven 1-0. So Steven's still the top dog in terms of percentage. But next week, Nerdbomber and I will face off, and she will try to, I guess, move into. She would be 5-5, and I would be 5-6. So then I would move all the way down to the bottom.
Ooh.
Stakes are high here. It's April, and it's high noon here at the Online Warriors Quiz Arena, I guess I'll say. So be on the lookout for that. Something to look forward to for all of you. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Online Warriors podcast. You can head to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review there. You can hit us up on Twitter. Our handles have already been mentioned. Or you can head over to Patreon if you want to get back to the show. Yeah, we'll see you next week. And for now, I'll turn it over to Techtic for his weekly tech tip. Techtic.
So originally I had a joke about chemistry, but I don't think it's going to get a reaction.
Have a good week, everybody.